We have Melanie Branch in the house. There's a lot of buzzwords that I have personally noticed: neurospicy, neurodivergent.
The bumper stickers that say honk if you like pizza, for example. What do you think that means?
Honk if you actually like pizza.
That means if they're in the car and they're driving with their friend and somebody honks at them because they're driving like an asshole, in their brain, that means, oh, haha, they must like pizza. It is not an advertisement and a request for you to honk and agree that you like pizza.
I still don't get it.
It's supposed to be so that it's like an inside joke. So if they're a bad driver and they make a mistake and somebody honks at them, it's like, oh, they must be honking because they like pizza. It's like an advertisement that they're not a good driver. It is not saying, hey, pizza lovers unite.
Wow.
Fucked up. And I
It
saw
is
a
fucked
TikTok
up.
about this the other day after we had talked about this at the Neurospicy Academy. And the TikTok was this girl who was like, and then she showed a video of her trunk and it's covered in those stickers. And she's like, so I really misread this situation, huh? I
Yeah.
this is what this meant. So yeah,
Now
no,
I'm
it
going to
does.
second guess every license plate and every bumper sticker that I read because I'm going to be like, okay, what does this really mean?
I mean, and the neurotypicals say that we're not good with communication.
Hello, my loves. This is Johanna Burkhardt. I am a multidimensional channel, teacher, healer, and author. And I am obsessed with all things metaphysical, esoteric, galactic, and of course, the healing journey. And I'm here to share my stories, my wisdom, and my teachings about being human in the illusion that we call reality. Welcome to Cosmic Blonde.
Hello, my loves. I am super excited because we have Melanie Branch in the house. A lot of you will know her as Mindset Melanie, the business coach. Um, I was drawn to her from her beautiful, bright, vibrant hair and her attitude and her style. I just really resonated with all of her things. So, welcome, Melanie. Thanks for hanging out with me today.
Thank you so much for having me. Hi, everybody.
So, there's a lot of buzzwords that I have personally noticed over, I don't know, the last 6 months at least. I'm sure they've been around longer, but they didn't come into my awareness until then. And I'm talking like neurospicy, neurodivergent. A lot more people curious if they're on the autism spectrum, and people realizing that they may have ADD or ADHD and really being kind of lost in all of that. And you were one of the first people that I ever heard say neurospicy. And I was like, who is this woman? What is she talking about? I was so drawn in. And we had so many little things in common in the things that we teach, and, of course, being intuitive and all of that jazz. And so I would just love for you to share your story about how that all came about.
Thank you so much for having me on your podcast. This is my favorite topic, so we can dive right in. I won't waste any time. Essentially, over these past 4 or 5 years, really since 2020, when the world shut down and everything happened, and my mom passed away from her 18-month battle with stage 4 head and neck cancer, and
Oh my
everything
gosh.
really came to the ultimate just breakthrough moment, and just it was a wild ride. So my spiritual awakening really started in April of 2020 when she passed away. And, fortunately, the world, myself included, was given enough space and grace to reevaluate their life and their livelihood and what really makes them tick and what makes them happy. So essentially, I was diagnosed with ADHD in my early 20s when I had 2 young children and my husband's in the Navy. And all of my coping mechanisms failed. I just couldn't. I was like, what is happening here? What is all this? I thought I was just depressed and I thought I was just anxious. You guys kept telling me you'd give me a pill and I'd be fine. And none of these things are working. In fact, they're making everything worse. So I did what I'm known for, and I dove into the research, and I really fought tooth and nail for my ADHD diagnosis because they don't want to hand those out, especially not to
Yeah.
women. If you don't act like a hyperactive 7-year-old little white boy, how could you possibly have anything going on with you neurologically? No
Right.
way. So I really fought for that. But at that moment in time, that was what, I'm 37 now. I was 22, 23, that was 15 years ago, whatever. I have dyscalculia. You
Who's
do the math.
counting?
Carry the one. But over these past couple of years, I was really able to dive into that research and understand at such a deeper level and take a more holistic approach to how to improve my life and business as a neurodivergent person. I enjoy the term neurospicy just because it's more fun and it's easier to say, and it gets the spotlight over to, my causes a lot more interestingly than neurodivergent does, right? And plus there's the movie Divergent, all that other sort of stuff. So some of us use the term neurosparkly. Some of us, there's
I like that. I haven't heard that one. I haven't heard neurosparkly.
That's one of my clients and the students at the Neurospicy Academy, my favorite Joe on TikTok and everybody, just so you know, favorite OUR, because she's from Australia, so she spells it that weird way. Okay. Anyway, she's the one that likes neurosparkly. But essentially it's just shining that spotlight on the fact that we are not all neurotypical. We are not all meant to work in a cubicle 8 hours a day. We're not meant to, just bow down and take things as they're given to us. A lot of us want to say, well, why does that happen? Or what's the circumstances behind it? What's the reasoning? What is it that you really need? So, really just coming to terms with the fact that, like, my brain works differently than what a lot of these self-help books require, and a lot of just a lot of the approaches that are out there for personal development and business improvement and all that, they're not based on my brain, so they don't work for me.
So is neurospicy, is neurospicy, or is neuro, what does it mean to be neurodivergent? Like what does that mean?
Neurodivergent, that is a huge umbrella that covers ADHD, autistic, traumatic brain injury. There's some of the sort of, we like to take in the BPDs, the bipolars, and all of those people too, although those are technically considered mood disorders. But really it just means that your brain, your operating system, physiologically and spiritually and emotionally works differently than the neurotypical brain. And our society in the Western world is based on the experience of a neurotypical white man brain.
So interesting. And I totally resonate with being neurodivergent, though I had never heard that term. And I was really like, oh, this explains so much, because people want to put you in a fucking box and they want you all to learn the same way. And I really didn't recognize this until, I'm 44. So when I went to school, it was way different than my kids, right? My kids are 17 and 26. So my son being 17, his schooling was hell, because he's so smart. He could look at a math problem and know the answer, but because he couldn't break it down 85 ways the way that they wanted him to and learn this one fucking way, he failed time after time after time. And then guess what? Now he has no interest in school and doesn't want to be there and has all these, social problems now. And it's like, I would go in and fight with these people. Like, he doesn't learn this way. And I'm thinking, God, I never had this problem when I was a kid. And so it didn't really ever dawn on me that my brain just worked differently until recently, over the last, 15 years, where they've really changed. The world has changed so much in the way that they classify things and want us to all be sheep. They just want us to all be sheep.
Yeah.
And it's wild.
They want you to be manageable. They want you to be docile. They want you to be apathetic.
Yeah.
That's how they get the most out of you. And I've never been willing to be that person. I tried. I'm a Navy wife. I tried so hard for many years.
Oh, God, I bet you did.
And I didn't have visible tattoos. And I made sure everybody in my life was taken care of. And human giver syndrome, it's not in the DSM, but if you are raised female, if you're an AFAB individual, especially in the United States, you are expected to take care of everyone in your life to your own detriment. Think about the mom on Christmas morning. Nobody's filling her stocking. Nobody's filling her mimosa. Everybody is just expecting her to make this day magic. And I am no longer available to make everybody else's life easier.
A fucking men. We talk about burnout a lot. I was in stage 3 adrenal fatigue when I said I'm done, I need a divorce, because at that point I had realized I am drowning so bad that I don't know if I will be able to get out of this. Like I pushed myself so low from taking care of everybody, and honestly, and I people know my story, and I had to take responsibility because I allowed that. I allowed that for a very long time because it's what was programmed in us. Like, this is what you do. You take care of people, you take care of everything. And so many of us women took on that masculine role of doing all of this. It's so crazy. And so I look at people today and I'm just like, I can't ever go back to that. I can't do it. I don't care if that, I mean, if that works for you, go ahead. I mean, eventually it's gonna wear you out. You're going to hit burnout at some point. You just
Absolutely.
are. There's no way people can sustain that. Not today, not in the frequencies that the planet is in currently, not with everything that's going on. It just, we can't sustain it. And that was one of the things that I really resonated with you, because what I teach and preach and have been for years is what I call energy management,
Mhm.
which is about learning your body, learning how your energy works, what works for you, and what how you need to eat, how you need to feel when you need to rest. And really, because I got so sick of people trying to tell me, like, I need to, especially when I went into coaching, I should say, because when I owned a brick and mortar insurance agency, I still operated the same as I did in corporate.
Yeah.
But when I went into entrepreneur world, all these classes and business schools I went to, basically these people were working 80 hours a week too. And I was like, I didn't leave that to do that.
Yeah.
And people are like, well, you can't. When I started really living in my flow and I slept more and I started my calendar doesn't open until 11 a.m. and all
Oh
these
yeah.
things, people are like, you're lazy. I'm like, no, the fuck, I'm not. This is how my body operates. Like, this is what's best for me. And this is how I thrive. But you get judged, and people, like, it's not an easy journey to embark on. But once I started that and I was learning all about how to manage my energy and how I need to sweat every day and I need to do certain things, I was like, oh my God, this is what makes me feel good.
Yeah.
And when I feel good, I make more money and I operate better and my life is just better. And so you were just talking about this on one of your other videos where you were talking about, what did you say? You said your non-negotiables. Will you
Non-negotiables.
share a little bit about that?
I like to reverse engineer the outcome, right? So if the desired outcome is $1 million a year business, what are the things that have to happen every day or on whatever timeline
Yeah.
so that that is possible? Right? It's the same thing with manifesting. You don't become that bitch until you start being that bitch.
Right.
So let's not wait until we have billions of dollars, millions of dollars, whatever it is that you're looking for,
Mhm.
until we're happy. Let's be happy now. And then all this stuff will come to us because we can now support it, right? Like, train like an Olympian. You got to say no to some shit right now, but you can't say no to everything or else you're not
Right.
going to keep training, right?
You got
So
to
it's
be the
really
change.
understanding what, again, like how to get in that flow state. What do I need to be able to do all that? There's a certain amount of caffeine, there's a certain amount of food in my tummy, there's a certain part of the month that I have to be in, because there's a certain part of the month where if I'm in my luteal phase, we're not doing this, like, just really understanding all those elements. So
Yeah.
I have non-negotiables that must happen in my business every day and non-negotiables that must happen just in my life every day. So every day I have to post at least one piece of marketing for my business, whether that's filming a video, editing it, releasing it, whether that's reposting something that's done well, whether that's just posting something out of my drafts, who knows? Depends on the day and what my
Yeah.
energy looks like. And
Right.
then it's the same thing for my personal life. Like, every day I have to go for my walk, whether that walk takes me to the coffee shop for a latte or whether it takes me to the river's over here, whether it takes me to the river to just gaze at the water and, ground myself. I have to move out of
Yeah.
my home every single day, because I know you must feel like this too. I used to think that I just had wicked anxiety that would hit me at a certain part of the day, but and I would feel it spiraling and vibrating up my body. I'm like, oh no, I'm getting nervous. My body just said, bitch, we have to move.
Yeah. You got to move the energy.
Mm-hmm.
You got to
Yeah.
move the energy. And I have to, like, for me, I used to beat myself up because I don't weight train. And I honestly, when you heal, when you go on a journey of healing adrenal fatigue or even just burnout, the lactic acid that is produced in your body is so insane that if you do weight training, it's going to make you worse. So you have to
Yeah.
do gentle workouts. So for the first year at when I was healing, all I could do was gentle yoga or walk. And so I ended up getting a sauna because I really need to sweat. Like I
Yeah.
have to sweat. Sweating makes me feel good. So I started using the sauna. Well, here I am 4 years. I mean, it really takes 3 to 5 years to heal it. And I'm on year 4 and I'm still not 100%. But now I like to go to the gym more than anything. It helps me get out of the house. It puts me in an environment and I get right on that Stairmaster and I sweat and it hurts and my brain's like, this is painful. You can't do this. It goes through all of these crazy stories. And then once I push past that, and I get off the treadmill, I'm like, oh my God, I feel so, or the Stairmaster, I feel so good. Then I go to the treadmill, and I sweat for another 25 minutes and I leave there on cloud nine. Even if I wake up and I'm like, all the thoughts, don't go work out today. We're too tired, do this. When I leave the gym, my everything has shifted for me because
Yeah.
all the stagnant energy has moved and everything's flowing again. And I have to have that.
Yeah.
And when I feel like I can't, like I've temporarily, because I'm a nomad, so I'm living the winter in Michigan. And
What? No, ma'am. I am a Floridian and I'm in Florida. You're doing that the wrong way.
I
I just want you
know
to know.
I don't like
You're
the
in the wrong
cold either.
spot.
I don't like the cold either, but my best friend lives up here. And I was like, she's like, come experience the hallmark of the winter. Well, guess what? We've had 2.5 feet of snow when this is the snow capital. So there really hasn't been any snow, but it's still cold. But there's been a couple of days where it's been snowing and I don't know how to drive in that shit, nor am I going to. So I can't go to the gym. I have to work out here. I will legit get anxiety because I'm like, I can't do my thing. I can't do what I know is going to make me feel good, and I have to figure out another way of doing it. And so again, that's my non-negotiable is I got to figure out a way to sweat. I got to
Yeah.
figure out a way to move my body, and otherwise I don't feel good, and then my whole day is just fucked.
Those thoughts of impending doom that we get in the beginning of the workout, I'll just give you the example. I really started my walking practice, making this a thing where I am a bitch that walks, about a year ago. And I was really overweight. I was in a lot of pain because I have Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, I have mast cell activation syndrome, and I have POTS. And those are all really interconnected. And I call them the physical manifestation of late realized ADHD and autism, because if our brain is built differently, like physiologically, you can look at a neurodivergent brain and look at a neurotypical brain and they're different. Then why would our body not be different? So essentially, what had happened was the first couple of months for my walks, my first mile or so, my brain was screaming at me, you're going to break it. What happens when you break your ankle and you're 3 miles away from home? And what happens when you get abducted? And it's like, ma'am, you're 37. You are no longer on the abductable list. They are not interested in you. You have pink and purple hair. They cannot start trafficking
They're not going to adopt
without somebody noticing. What the hell?
They're not coming for us.
Calm down. But then I figured out through all of my research that with my mast cell activation syndrome, also known as MCAS, I have an overactive histamine response to random things. It can be a different thing each day. And it's tied to my Ehlers-Danlos syndrome and my POTS, but one of those symptoms is thoughts of impending doom, because your body is essentially going into different forms of anaphylaxis and shock, basically, thinking that you're under attack. So my brain was saying, you're gonna die, so that I turned around and would stop exercising.
I had never, like, this makes so much sense. I don't know what any of those terms are that you listed that you have, but you saying like the histamine response and then your brain having that impending doom, like that makes me want to go down that rabbit hole and do research, because that is so crazy. Because I have that all the time, even when I'm not working out, like just going. So, I mean, I'm in 2 years, I've been on the road. I've slept at truck stops. I've no idea where I'm going. Even though I don't listen to my brain can come up with some crazy scenarios of what's going to happen to me where I'm like, dude, what the fuck? Where did that come from? Like, no, baby, that's not going to happen. It's wild.
Yeah, absolutely. So there was one time, actually, I had just started doing research into the food triggers for mast cell activation syndrome, and peanuts are one of the biggest ones. And I tell you, I was a peanut butter girl, ride or die. Every candy that had peanuts or peanut butter involved was the top of my list. Loved it to death. But I said, all right, let's check this out. So I had gone a couple months without eating peanuts or peanut butter. And then one morning, just not thinking, la, 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 took a spoonful of peanut butter before I headed out for my walk. And I ended up having to turn around because my body was breaking out in hives, my knees, especially from where my shorts and my legs and everything were like rubbing, and there was movement and stuff like that, my thoughts were going so insane and my body was so itchy that I had to turn around and go home. I couldn't even go on my walk that day. I had to take a
Wow.
bunch of Benadryl and lay down and calm my ass down because my histamine response was like, we're under attack. And I was like, I don't think we are, but okay, let's go home. So it was such a moment of like, this is what you got to do, bitch.
Right.
Like you have to be hyper aware of what you're doing all the time. And I said, cool, then that means self-care is going to have to get way more serious.
I just figured my hypervigilance was because of the amount of trauma I've had in my
That
life.
does go hand in hand with it.
Yeah.
Definitely is part of it, but physiologically there's a lot that's triggering it.
So I'll get histamine responses mainly just like in my nose where I'll get stuffy or my eyes will get puffy and those types of things. I'd have never really been someone who really breaks out in hives unless I take Wellbutrin. I haven't taken couldn't tell you the last time I took a pharmaceutical, but that's my histamine reactions look a little bit different, but I never correlated them together. And I mean, I know my trauma obviously has a part in that as well, but it's really interesting because you don't know what you don't know until you talk to people like this. But
my spirit guides started this whole movement, this whole journey for me a few years ago. I just kept getting a message that said, lessen inflammation. So my whole guiding light to everything I've been doing for the past 2 years has been researching things that are linked to inflammation.
Yeah. Yeah, my guides did the same thing because when I spent, and I'm sure you had struggles with Western medicine doctors. I mean, I went to 8 different doctors. I would leave in tears. They told me I was crazy, that there was nothing, I wasn't in adrenal fatigue. I wasn't having thyroid. I'm like, I have every fucking symptom, every symptom. Like, how can I not? Well, you can't have every symptom. I'm like, what do you mean? I do. Like, it's just getting worse and worse and worse. I probably didn't have every symptom 3 years ago if you would have listened to me. And so it really sent me down this journey of holistic healing. And I started with changing my food. And so I became a fruitarian for quite a long time because berries are the highest frequency food you can eat. Fruit is the highest frequency food you can eat. And it is the most healing thing for people, for your adrenals.
Yeah.
And, which your adrenals, if your adrenals are off, if you're in an activated nervous system, that's going to send signals to your thyroid. It's going to send signals to your pituitary gland. It's going to throw all your fucking hormone. Everything's going to go off. It's a domino effect. And now you don't know what's what, like what's the cause? There's so many dominoes that have just fallen. And so I just started with, I need to get my body out of inflammation. I need to calm everything down. And so I just removed, I love cheese. I removed dairy. That was really hard. I removed dairy. I stopped eating meat. I stopped doing all of those things. And I wasn't eating meat a lot anyway, because during my awakening, meat started to taste like metal to me. And I had to go through a break of that. But it was just interesting that, I went that. And then I started getting really intuitive with herbs and supplements. And my body would literally tell me, this is what I need. And sometimes I only needed it for a month or 2 months, but it's really was the beginning of, I need to know my body better than anyone and what it's asking of me, and start trusting when I'm craving certain things or when I'm being drawn to certain supplements and doing my research, not just blindly taking something. But it changed my life because now I'll still go to Western medicine, but I'll do it for like wellness checks, like do annual blood work, things like that, and use my insurance. But I remember like a year ago, I went in and I knew, because I'd stopped taking D3 with K2 and I'd stopped taking my B12. And I'll do that. I'll take breaks from time to time. And I was very depressed. Everything was just not good. And I went in and I said, you're going to do my blood panel. Can you please run vitamin D and B12? And she said, why? And I said, well, I'm having cravings for eggs. I don't eat eggs. I'm having cravings for certain things. My mood is really low. And she's like, well, I can guarantee you that's not it. I said, I don't care. Please run the test. Please just run the test. You know what? Came back. I was super fucking deficient. And I was like, you know, I could have been the petty
Also,
bitch and been like,
what does she
hello.
gain from telling you that
Right.
she already knows that you're wrong? Like, as a medical professional, the oath that you take,
Right.
that Hippocratic oath, is not to fucking tell me you know more than me.
Yeah. But they do. All of
Oh
those
yeah.
doctors did that. And I was like, I know something is wrong with my body.
Mhm.
And so when you were talking about like how you struggled to get your ADHD diagnosis, it it's really sad that we can know something's not right with us. And because it doesn't fit into their fucking box, or we don't want to take their stupid, because that was the other thing. I had a doctor fire me for getting off antidepressants and saying I don't want to take these anymore. They literally fired. They said, you can't come to our practice anymore. It's like, this is the world that we are living in. And this
Mhm.
is disgusting. Like,
Mhm.
healthcare was not designed for wellness for us. It was
Not at all.
designed, no,
Health,
it was
Western
money,
medicine
money,
is for
money,
that
money.
line of fine. Western
Yep.
medicine is pre-surgery. What we really want is to be, not just, I want vitality. I don't know
Mm-hmm.
about you, but I want to enjoy every possible moment of every part, waking and asleep, part
Yes.
of my days as I possibly can. And somebody who went to school for a large chunk of time, then that school was predicated on a bunch of medicine that is derivative of oil leftovers, all this shit,
Yeah.
all the oil runoff and stuff is like, oh, well, we have all this stuff, let's make something out of it. But here's the thing, if I have a headache and I take ibuprofen is not being replenished in my body.
Yeah.
It's just not worth it to me. So really going that route and here's another thing, and this is what I tell every single one of my clients, because I do get a lot of people that come to me that are really heavily involved in Western medicine right now, because we're all perimenopausal or postmenopausal, and we're just trying to figure out everything. It's like, well, I would love to work out, but I literally can't even get out of the bed. Could you just give me something so I could get out of the bed, and then maybe I can go work out and lose this weight that you keep telling me is a problem? But
Right.
hey, by the way, I just lost 30 pounds in this past year, and all of my physical problems are still here.
Yeah.
So there's that.
Yes.
But really understanding that you can become an expert in yourself and
Mm-hmm.
never need
Yeah.
anything from a Western provider ever again. Because why would we trust somebody who we're going to talk to for 5 minutes every year at most to know what the fuck's going on in our body over ourselves?
Yeah. And
It just doesn't make any sense.
I've had so the last doctor that I had, I went in because I ended up having like PTSD with these doctors, because when people constantly tell you you're crazy, you start to go, God, am I crazy? Am I making this shit up? So I was starting to have some issues, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna go into the doctor. I'm gonna use my insurance to at least get all these tests done and just do the baseline. And when I went in there, I sat down with her and I said, listen, probably not going to have a patient like me, but I'm going to tell you, I'm very intuitive. I know my body better than anybody. I'm very in tune with what my body needs and when something's not right. And this is my history of what doctors have said. And she looked at me and she said, we are literally taught to go off of a book, to not use our intuition, and to not think out of the box. We're here to fix you and to give you a pill. And she said that to me. And she said, I will do my best to listen to you and to, hear you out and do what we can within your insurance. And I was like, wow, I would love that. And so she still had her moments, again, like the B12 vitamin D thing, but that was probably the best experience I had had, because and that's how doctors should be. We should be able to go to a doctor and a doctor say, okay, let me listen. And let me start with, how fucking stressed out are you at home? Are you getting enough sleep? How well are you eating? What are all the, they
How
don't
much are you
care.
drinking?
Yeah.
If they were a little bit more strict about that, I haven't had a drop of alcohol since November of 2022, when I woke up one day and I hadn't remembered the night before, and I was like, what am I doing? I had a few cocktails, not even cocktails, I was a wine drinker, and I was out with a friend and my husband, and I have a few vital hours every morning that I could knock out a shit ton of work. But when I'm hungover, this is really, what am I doing? And so I had this like intuitive moment of clarity where I said, you know what, alcohol, I recognize the tool that you were up until this point, because you allowed me to exist in a world that was overstimulating with people that I didn't like and that didn't have their best intention, or didn't have my best intentions. And so like, I understand how you served me, and I no longer need you. And I have never once looked back. But if I look at everything that was going wrong in my life, in my wellness journey and all that, it's because I was drinking poison every night.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, there's just no other way to look at it. So medical PTSD, medical CPTSD even is a real thing. And combined with everything, all the doctors that I had to talk to when my mom was essentially dying, battling cancer, from the moment we were able to get her diagnosed from the ER, because she didn't have insurance and because she had this huge mass inside her mouth that we thought was an infected tooth, because she let it get to stage 4 until she went to, but that's a whole generational cycle that I was able to break. Thank you very much. But you know, I had to literally, between my sister and me, she was the crier and I was the yeller. So I was the one that was responsible for getting the phone number of the head of patient relations, a man named Jason, I won't say his last name, at the biggest hospital in Northeast Florida. I have his cell phone number in my phone because I had to have him help me get her into the Medicaid or Medicare as fast as possible, because they won't even give you the cancer medicine that will kill you anyway, what the chemotherapy, unless you have somebody paying for it.
I know, it's so sad.
So like,
it's so sad.
We can all, every single person listening and you right now, you can validate your own experience with these toxic providers. I don't even like calling them doctors, because I don't want to give people that are in the holistic and wellness space and the naturopathic space and all that stuff. But like, there are some service providers of a Western medicine nature that have done so much harm.
Yes.
And there's no money in prescribing ADHD medicine, because they won't even make enough of it for us anymore. And that is some of the things. There are some people, yes, I don't think everybody needs to be on ADHD medicine. I think it's a good jumping off point if you're really spinning out to like get a handle on everything, but I don't think it's a long-term solution, because
pharmaceuticals are a temporary band-aid.
They really are. They're let's get you back on track. Let's get you some actual support and some strategies that are going to work for you. Because here's the thing that a lot of my clients say too: they'll take a stimulant medication, but it doesn't help them focus on the right thing. So how many times, you know, you have this whole thing that you got to work on your website, but you take your pill and now you go clean your closet. And you're like, wait a minute, guys, right? So like, it's not the fix that it's advertised to be, but working in the space of understanding your entire being and understanding, and this is what I have my clients do too. This is what my energy optimization guide is based on. Asking yourself throughout the day, how am I feeling? Why could I be feeling like this? And then writing it down so that we have the data. If you have 30 to 60 days of data on your mood and your energy levels based on when you slept, how long you slept, what you ate, who you hung out with, what's going on with the moon and the astrological events. If you have 60 days of that, your natural problem solving and your natural pattern recognition skills will kick in and you become unstoppable.
Exactly. And
but we don't remember it. So you have to write it down. And then you go, well, I never remember to write things down and I can't do a new routine for more than 2 days and la, 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 la. And that, my friend, is because you don't believe that you're deserving of feeling well. You don't love yourself enough and you don't believe in your heart of hearts that you deserve to feel anything other than as shitty as you feel right now.
Yeah. And that's literally what I had to do. And I'm actually in the process of another one right now. I do 40 days. That's what I do. And I teach my clients something I call stacking, because listen, I have a lot of Scorpio in my chart, and I just have always been an all or nothing kind of person. I quit smoking cold turkey. I quit drinking cold turkey, like all these types of things. Everything is all or nothing kind of an energy. But I would be that girl who would be like, I'm going to change my diet, my workout routine. I'm going to start meditating. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that all at once. And
tomorrow,
then of course I fail. Of course I fail, because who the fuck can do that, right? We think we can just take on everything because that's all we've ever done. And so I say stacking, and that's where it's like, take a 40 days, pick 1 or 2 things that you want to embody, things that you want to make a part of your day where you never think about it anymore, right? Like checking the mail or, eating breakfast. You just don't think about it. You just do it.
Yep.
So if that's how you do it, so you start, and then once you've got it down to where you don't have to think about doing it anymore, it's just part of your natural routine, then we can go in and do another one and add to it and stack and add a couple other routines. And I do the same thing as you. There's a level to that where there's a non-negotiable. So like you, like I'm not going to sleep with makeup on my face. So I will at least take my micellar water and wipe off my makeup. And on days that I'm feeling good, I oil my face, I use my red light wand, I do all the things. You know what I mean? But every morning I meditate and journal. Sometimes that's a 15 meditation. Sometimes it's an hour, but these are things like I don't even think about anymore. I just do them. And I had to learn because I just kept failing. And then I would get so defeated because I was like, why isn't I'm doing all these changes? Why isn't this working? It was
Well,
like, well, you're not supposed to do them all at one time.
it's the stereotypical ADHD female experience where you stay up late one night saying,
Yep.
okay, tomorrow's the day I'm gonna fix it. I'm gonna have this new
And that's
elaborate
always
routine.
how it
I'm gonna wake up
happens,
at 4
too.
o'clock every day. I'm gonna work out for 2 hours. I'm gonna eat clean. I'm gonna only eat this, and I'm gonna drink my water, and I'm gonna only talk to good people, and I'm gonna read for 45 minutes every day, and I'm gonna if you even stick to that for 2 days, that's incredible. It's just
Right.
not possible. And to be stuck in that cycle of waiting until your life is spinning out before you even notice, hey, it's spinning out, maybe I need to make a change, and then let me try and change everything.
Mhm.
That's the same kind of cycle that we get stuck in, like burnout, right? And I tell people that there's so many things that are cyclical in nature, right? And Casey, I forget her last name, but she wrote the book How to Clean When You're Drowning, or How to Keep House When You're Drowning, right? I love her very much. She talks about how laundry is a cycle, and it's never done, right? So there's just various steps in the cycle of laundry. So you have clean laundry, you have worn laundry, you have dirty laundry, you have washing laundry, you have fold laundry, you have clean laundry, da 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 da.
Yeah, because
right?
it really never does end, does it?
It never does end unless we
Especially
start
if you
living
have
naked,
children.
which I'm totally here for. I'm fine with it. It's cool. Let's do whatever that's going to be easiest. But it's the same way if you're stuck in the cycle of burnout, because burnout begins because you get really excited about this new thing. Oh my God, this new thing, this new job, this new business, this new book, this new, whatever the fuck it is. I'm going to dive in. I'm going to make this my entire life. And this is what I'm going to do. And and then we never ask for help when we're having any troubles. Mm-hmm. So then we start feeling like we have to do all of this stuff for everybody, right? It's like how we start a friendship with somebody who's going to end up using us. Oh my God, I love this person. I'm obsessed with this person. We're going to spend so much time. They're love bombing me. I'm not love bombing them. I'm just getting a lot of dopamine from them, and they're love bombing me and realizing that they can take big advantage of me with my big heart and my openness and my willingness to help people and all this other stuff. And then I'm going to get to a point where I really start to resent them because they call me and I help them and I drop everything and they don't ever even ask me how I'm doing. And then, oh my God, it's the same cycle over and over and over and over and over. And we can stop it by saying, how bad do you want to let it get before we make a change? How bad do you want to let it get?
Well, and some of us don't even, you go through the whole worth thing too. Like I thought I was only worthy for years if I overgave, if I did everything, if I changed who I was and lost myself completely to be this other person just to be accepted. And then you go through, I went through my awakening and I lost everybody essentially and everything. I've lost everything 3 times. And so it's like now I have this itty bitty tiny circle and I'm okay with it. Because those people I know aren't going to use me. I know those people, it's a very reciprocal relationship. We're like-minded and we can speak freely to each other. We can call each other out. We can do those things. And I know that, whether I give them something or not, or whether I can show up for them or not, vice versa, we love and accept each other, and I had to let all those people go. And they say like the bigger the circle, the faker your friends, because how can you sustain that many relationships? A relationship requires you to show up for each other, communication, all of that. I don't know about you, but 2, 3 people max can I sustain like really showing up for. So how do you do that? They're just acquaintances after that. They're not.
I am a big believer in never venting. Venting, whether it's to yourself or to somebody else, does not solve any problems and in fact creates this dust cloud energetic area around you of chaos that will prevent all of your manifestations from coming to you, right? It's really throwing a fit and reveling and rolling around in your bullshit, right? It is being in the mindset that, oh my God, this happened to me. And I'm like, no, 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 no. And what happens is our neurodivergent brain, the ADHD and the autism especially, will ruminate on something that doesn't have an answer. So if I go to the grocery store or I go to the doctor or I go somewhere and somebody there is rude to me, for no reason, or something happens there that I don't have a reason why, my brain will get stuck ruminating on it over and over. I'll give you an example. My dad, this past Christmas, I don't really talk to my dad. I'm pretty contact with my family members. They really were just responsible for a lot of atrocious things that happened to me because I was undiagnosed for so long. And, hindsight is 2020. But my dad got me a present this year. And it was a clear crystal ball, but not like crystals, which I love. This is a labradorite sitting right here, right? It's beautiful. I'm fucking obsessed
I love
with
labradorite.
Crystals. Everybody knows I'm obsessed with crystals. He got me a crystal ball that was just, a big, heavy, clear ball that goes on a little crystal stand. And no card, no explanation. It looked like something maybe he found at his mother's house or found on eBay or some shit. I don't even know what it was. And for 3 days, I had it next to where we take the recycling out on the countertop because I was just like, I think I want to throw this out. I don't think this is in good, I just don't know. And so for days I was like, why do you think my dad got me that? So like my kids would come in the kitchen or my husband would come in the kitchen. As soon as anybody would come near me and I was looking at it, I go, why do you think he did that? Do you think that was rude? Do you think that? And I was fixated on it and I knew that I was fixated because they would laugh every time they'd hear me say it. And so finally I just texted him. I said, hey dad, I'm just a little confused. What did you get me? He goes,
What is this?
What is this? And he goes, oh, it's a crystal ball. And I instantly just said, oh, okay, cool. So then that means you're mocking me, right? You're mocking that I'm a psychic intuitive. You're mocking I don't know what the fuck it is, but it didn't seem in good faith. So I threw it out. But that's not venting. And when we catch ourselves yelling and exclaiming and going over and over and over and over and over and over again, nothing good comes from that. That's not forward movement.
No. And I get that way too. I call it I call it reconciliation. Like my brain's trying to reconcile something, and I literally you explained it perfectly. Like you get fucking stuck because your brain's like, we cannot move forward until we reconcile this. Yeah. And it's super frustrating, because for me, it's just been a practice of acceptance that not everything is going to be reconciled or reconciling it on my end. Or doing what you said, which is like asking, what does this mean? What do you mean? It's
a timeline. Okay, so here's the answer. You ready? I made this pact with my spirit guides. I said, I will continue moving forward as long as you promise that I will understand it when I'm ready.
Yeah.
And they said, absolutely. And I said, so this is not a matter of me ever finding out. It's just a matter of I'm not in control of the timeline of it, right? So exactly. I had a huge breakup with a bunch of mean girls a couple of years ago too. And if you've been following me on TikTok for a while, you heard all about it. Love you. Thank you for supporting me. But I knew in that moment, that's actually when I made the pact with my spirit guides. I said, I trust that you will let me know why this happened when I'm ready to deal with it. And sure as shit, over these past couple of years, I've had those downloads and the understandings come through, and that, there's a saying that people say that God or the universe took those people out of your life because they heard conversations that you didn't.
Yeah, I believe that too. Yeah. My guides told me you can't seek and receive at the same time. It's impossible. Yeah. So they're like, you are seeking reconciliation. You are seeking to solve this problem. If you can just accept that you don't know the answer right now and just set it down, like you don't have to let it go, but if you can set it down and just let it be there on the desk, then it's like they give me the example of like when you lose your keys and we get all frantic. We're like, where's my keys? Where's my keys? Where are my keys? And then you sit down because you're like, fuck, I can't find my keys. And then you're like, oh, hey, look, they're right there in front of my face.
Yeah.
You can't seek and receive at the same time. And so I always have to come back to that, even today, and just be like, okay, I'm seeking right now. I'm seeking reconciliation. I'm seeking why. And there's sometimes where we can, like you did, reach out to someone and say, and something that I'll often tell my clients with communication is ask, what do you mean by this? Because our head likes to come up with the worst case scenario, and that's probably not even what they mean, but we're going to take it as what, and so ask, what do you mean this? What does this mean? Why are you doing this? I need to understand it.
Or if you're
Sometimes
late
you're going to get an
realized autistic, you don't even understand what just happened.
Yeah.
Like, you really do need somebody to explain it, because you're going to not forget about misreading it. There are times where some things happen and I had no idea that was what was really happening. And somebody had to explain it to me. And I was like, oh shit, I didn't know that was what's going on. But guys.
Right.
Yeah. So, ask, what's the worst that's going to happen? You're going to find out the answer. The problem is people don't want to ask because they want it to be a certain answer and they're not willing for it to be any other thing.
Yes. Yes. Because you know what? It's hard sometimes to face the truth, right? Or see people for who they really are. Ignorance is not bliss, it's avoidance. When people are like that, it's not because they just want to live in bliss. It's because they don't want to face the truth, because the truth is scary. What are they going to, when they realize that that's the truth, they're going to be like, well, now what? Now I have to change something about me. Yeah. I have to make a decision, and they don't want to do that. And so people go, oh, ignorance is bliss. I'm like, no, it's avoidance. You're avoiding the truth. And,
Absolutely.
Eventually that truth's going to smack you in the face. It's just a matter of time.
I mean, what's funny too is I heard this the other day and it kind of gutted me. But it was also exactly what 90% of my clients needed to hear in that moment in time, which was like, okay, thanks. Like, most of the time when I'm scrolling TikTok, it's so that my spirit guides can get messages through that aren't for me. They're for the next person I'm talking to today. And it was the potential you see in someone else does not exist. That is simply what you would do if you were in their situation. Yep. That's gonna fuck up a few marriages.
Girl, I've been married 3 times. I saw, like, especially my last husband, I saw his potential. I was like, oh my God. And I was like, no, that was me romanticizing what I would do if I were him and how we would move forward together, because I know what I'm going to do and I know what he should do. And I was then holding him to the standard I created in my mind until I hit that burnout and was like, oh my God. Like, this is just not who he's ever going to be. He's never going to grow. He's never going to evolve. And he's a great guy. We're friends. I'm not talking bad about him, but he is who he is. And he's self-admitted, I'm never going to strive to be this. It's just not in my nature or not my desire. I'm like, okay. And I had to come into acceptance of that. And I'm just like, I went back and looked at all of my patterns in my relationships. And I was like, oh my God, I have been doing this for a very long time, a very long time. So now when I date, I'm like, I'm not moving forward unless I am 100% okay with how their behavior is. Yeah. And what they show me. And that's it. Yeah. And I'll still get caught up in the romanticism. And I think a lot of that is, again, for me with my trauma, that was a better, safer place for me to be, was in my imagination than it sure as hell was in my real life. Yeah. And so I think that that's where it stemmed from. And I'm sure there's more to it with the way my brain operates, but I am like, I have to catch myself, and I'm so observant and self-aware when I'm entering into any type of relationship, even client relationships, because I can get that way with clients too. And we can't make our clients do the fucking work. Like, we're not there to do the work for them. It's like, here, we're going to guide you and you have to do it.
That's a question that I ask every person that is thinking about working with me. I say to them, I just said it to somebody in the DMs actually before I hopped on here, because I only want to work with people that are building empires. I want to work with people that have the calling, right? I don't want to work with people who just want to start making $10,000 a month. I'll push you too hard. You won't like it. So I ask people, I say, okay, so if everything works out exactly how you want it, what does your life and business look like in 1 year from now?
That'll tell you a lot.
The responses that you get, because to me, I'm an Aquarius moon. I'm not going to get very emotional about anything. And if I do get emotional, it's not going to be in front of anybody. Thank you. Aquarius moon and trauma. I'm going to be alone in a bathroom crying in 3 weeks from now, but I'm not going to fucking cry right now. Thank you. So it's not super emotional to me, but people give me these answers where they're like, okay, well, hold on while I stop crying. And some of them, because I'm a businesswoman, right? This intuitive stuff, this is second, but my degree is in business from 2019, Western Governors University. I'm here about, let's make you some money. Let's make your impact. Let's fucking let's get all the things that you want can be achieved in business, right? Yeah. And these answers that I get from people, they're like, I mean, some of them are so moving, but have nothing to do with business. They're like, oh, well, I would be reaching everybody that I want to reach and helping the world achieve this level of consciousness and doing all of this stuff. And I just wouldn't be exhausted every day. And I'm like, okay, so because I asked that question so that I can then say, what's preventing you from making that happen now? Right. Like, so that A,
Good
they can see that I'm a coach that they need, and B,
Yeah.
so that they can start problem solving, right? Whether they work with me
Yeah.
or not. If you want to be here and you're here, let's make the steps to bridge that gap. And that's when they're like, oh, well, I can't finish anything that I start. And I have 30 projects that are 90% of the way done. And my kids are always needing things from me. And my partner always needs things from me. And I only sleep 3 hours a night and la, 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 and people pleasing and all this stuff. And I'm like, okay, do you want to change those things?
Yeah. Because that's the work.
If you don't want to change them, I'm not your girl.
Yeah.
I'll call you out. I'm an Aries Mercury. What I say has already been filtered heavily through my brain, because if I just said exactly what came to my brain, I would just slice right through people.
Yeah.
Not because I'm mean, but because I just see what the problem is and I say, well, here's the solution.
Blunt.
And I'm sorry, I'm
Yeah.
autistic. I don't always read this. Like, for example, I can't believe I'm saying this out loud. Oh, I hope she doesn't listen. A few years ago, so maybe two and a half years ago, on a Friday night, my friend at the time would always come over with her kids, and me and her and my husband would just stand around in the kitchen and hang out and shoot the shit and talk and all that stuff. And a friend of ours, we'll call her Meredith, a friend of ours. So everybody knew Meredith. Meredith and her husband are friends with me and my husband. Okay. Meredith messaged me at like 8 or 9, and Meredith is a drinker and also has sleeping pills. So sometimes Meredith doesn't know she's texting people, because she has been known to like wake up in the middle of a sleeping pill. And like, so you always take everything she says with a grain of salt, which is fine.
Yeah.
It's fine. Cool. Whatever, honey. I'm sure.
That's who she is.
Weird shit to people. But she had messaged me at like 9 p.m. and it was such an autistic moment. She goes, hey, babe, are you down for sex? And so I read it and I looked right at my best friend and right at my husband. And I said, she must have meant to text so-and-so her husband. And my husband and my best friend looked at each other and went, and I saw that look and I said, what am I not getting? And I had already texted her back like, tell so-and-so I said hello. Because that's, my brain just instantly said, oh, that's what she did. But my best friend and my husband let me in on the fact that she did in fact want to know if I was down for sex, because that was a part of her and his marriage. And she was just, that's
oh my God.
She was interested in. And I went, what? Huh?
I never would have thought that either.
But because I messaged back so quickly, we were able to just skirt on over it and it was no big deal. Yeah. Also, okay, here's the ADHD autistic test. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Your answer determines if you're ADHD autistic. Okay. I just want you to know this is scientific.
Okay.
The bumper stickers that say honk if you like pizza, for example. What do you think that means?
Honk if you actually like pizza?
That means if they're in the car and they're driving with their friend and somebody honks at them because they're driving like an asshole, in their brain, that means, oh, haha, they must like pizza. It does not, it is not an advertisement in a request for you to honk and agree that you like pizza.
I still don't get it.
It's supposed to be so that it's like an inside joke. So if they're a bad driver and they make a mistake and somebody honks at them, it's like, oh, they must be honking because they like pizza. It's like an advertisement that they're not a good driver. It is not saying, hey, pizza lovers unite.
Wow.
Fucked up. And I saw a TikTok about this the other day after we had talked about this at the Neurospicy Academy. And the TikTok was this girl who was like, and then she showed a video of her trunk and it's covered in those stickers. And she's like, so I really misread this situation, huh?
Yeah.
This is what this meant. So yeah,
now I'm going to second guess every license plate and every bumper sticker that I read, because I'm going to be like, okay, what does this really mean?
I mean, and the neurotypicals say that we're not good with communication.
Like, that's just, I don't know. I guess I prefer to just say what you mean what you say. Like, that's it. Like, why do we have to
We are the minority, though.
Yeah, I'm starting to realize that, over the last few years, really, because it just doesn't make sense why everything has to be so coded.
I actually had an acquaintanceship, 2 ladies that I was friends with back in like 2020. And they were very close friends. They're older than me. They're in like their 40s and 50s, 60s. I don't even know. But because I'm autistic, I'm always friends with people that aren't my age. And they had actually kind of gotten into a little squabble. And one of them, it's M and E. That's what we'll call them, right? M had said some stuff to me about E. And I told E when we were hanging out, I was like, well, you know, the other day she said this, this, and this about you. And that woman got mad at me for telling her the truth about what the other friend said. She said, I said, I don't understand. She goes, I don't need you to tell me these kind of things. And I said, well, tell you what? And she goes, I don't need you. I would have preferred that. I said, you would have preferred that I lied to you? And she said, yes, I would have preferred never knowing that. And I said, well, if you want me to not tell the truth, this friendship is not for you. It's not for me.
Shit.
That's not, I don't have that kind of setting.
Right.
I'm not available for that.
Like, so when I am with somebody who's like that, like I'm the kind of person that's like, I'm going to defend my friend's name. And like, so I have to be careful so I don't divulge
right.
situations, but I was hanging out with somebody and they were asking questions about somebody else that was really none of their business. It was very private, expecting me to tell them because I'm close to that person. And I was like, no. Like, if you're curious, go to them.
Yeah.
Like, and I wasn't going to get drawn into the drama or talk. Like, it just feels gross to me. And I went through my 20s and I was probably very much into that, but I was a very different person back then. Mm-hmm. So it's like we grow and evolve, but now it's like, no, if I'm in a room and someone's going to talk about another person, I'm going to call them out and be like, it's not appropriate. Like, if you want to do that, don't do it around me. Like,
you know, my favorite thing to do to those people is, it's like the most rude, polite thing that you can possibly do. And it works when other people are in the room really good, is if somebody's talking about somebody else and they say something to you, you say, I don't talk about people who are not in the room.
I love that. I'm going to use that.
Because that drives home a point.
Right. Like, they're not here to defend themselves. They're not here to, and if you're saying it behind their back or when they're not there, you obviously don't have the vagina, because I don't like to say balls because vaginas are way stronger than balls, but they don't have the vagina to face that person and say it to their face. And that's just ridiculous. Mm-hmm. Gosh.
I get it.
I have learned so much in this episode about how my brain works so differently. And I thought it was because of other reasons. And now I'm like, oh my gosh, things make so much more sense. And I love other women or other, teachers in general who drive home the fact that we should be our own best advocate, learn our bodies, learn our emotions, learn our brain. And it's something that I've been saying forever, that like, I wish this was taught in schools. Like, this is how you get in tune with yourself, because why would they want to do that, though? It's the most empowering thing they could do for us, and they don't want us to be empowered, but there needs to be more people out there doing this. And I love that you're doing it from a more business perspective, because I was resonating with a lot of the things you said. Do you know how many projects since I've been in this business, and I've had this business now for 8 years, how many projects I 80% or 70% completed? Whereas now I'm like, I have to look at a project and go, do I have the bandwidth and the time to actually complete this? Where I never used to ask that before of myself, but I've looked at the string of projects and I would hear my guides go, you don't ever finish anything. And I was like, I don't. Why is that?
If you Google the 8 executive functions, if you go to Google and say, what are the 8 executive functions? It'll pull all of them up. Now, there are many more executive functions than that, but those are the primary, the building block ones.
The main
and
ones.
It's everything from impulsivity, emotional regulation and control, organization, planning and prioritization, working memory, right? And then there's a bunch of other ones. To become an expert in yourself, whether you're an entrepreneur or not, whether you're neurodivergent or not, you must understand which of the executive functions you lean on the most because you're naturally inclined to them, and which ones you're the worst at and need the most support. Because when it comes to planning and prioritizing, I straight up have clients that are in my 6-month program that have had to book a 90-minute session with me on my Breakthrough Boost session, because the amount of work that we have to put into just plan their next 30 days on the calendar. Normally I will just I'm like, okay, cool. Let's get together for 10 minutes. We'll just knock this out. But some of them are so discombobulated that it's like, it really, and it's an emotional thing to go through and say, okay, if you have 2 more projects that are 90% of the way done. And once they are on the internet and they're bookable and we can start promoting them, this is when all the money can come in. One of the core reasons that they've been holding it up is because their belief about themselves isn't that they're worthy of thousands of dollars a day in passive income. So they have technically been holding themselves up secretly because they have to do this deep work. So planning and prioritizing an organization is emotional because you're also like, why couldn't I just do this myself? Why didn't I do this a long time ago? I could have been in a much better position if I would have just done. So it's so much that goes into it. And working memory was something that I thought I was had early onset Alzheimer's for a little bit there because I had skills regression at the same time that, there was just so much going on. And I just driving through my neighborhood would get lost. And I've been here since 2019. I had to put the GPS on because my working memory while doing all these other things doesn't work. I'll forget a word in the middle of my sentence. All of the notes in my phone notes are just words that I've heard throughout the day that I know I'm going to want to use again later.
Do you know, I probably have 4,000 notes on my notepad because I'm gonna do that. But I'll tell you, I always had a good memory, but the more I channel and the more I have intuitive and more self-aware I've become, the less I remember. I call it channel brain because I feel like we don't really need it. It gets archived or suppressed. Like
it wasn't for us.
Yeah, we don't need all of this shit. And that's why I have to have the notepad because a lot of times I get information. If I don't write it down, it's gone 3 seconds later. I couldn't tell you what the fuck I said.
Gone. One of my clients actually came in.
Gone.
It was our 4th call in my 6-month program. It was the 4th call. So we were 2 months in. We meet every 2 weeks. So you do the math. And the first 2 things she said to me, they were great. And they made me almost cry because they equaled, you're right. The first one was, I can see now why tracking my energy is so helpful. And I said, okay, what's the next one? And she said, I had forgotten how smart I am. And I said, what do you mean? And she teared up and I teared up. And she said, now that I'm giving myself permission to just write things down when they come to me and I don't lose them to the ether, I now always have something productive to work on, no matter my energy level, because if I'm feeling creative, I can go to this list of creative ideas that I've been thinking about. Or if I'm feeling analytical, I'll just go do this stuff. Right. But like, I'm remembering it.
Yeah. And that's so true because see, for me, it with the I experienced both. So my book, before my 3rd book, I got to chapter 9. That shit sat there for a year because I had so much fear. I knew I only had 1 more chapter to go. I couldn't get myself to write. I actually had writer's block because I was afraid of my perpetrators are still alive and I'm putting it out there felt like I was going to die, that I was going to be attacked. So that was my brain. And then I was afraid of the success. What if I am on the New York Times bestseller list and then these people really see that I'm out there and then they want to come up with a story that wasn't what happened when I know that that's what happened and like, the cycles of doom. So it took me a year to work through that fear to be able to publish my book. And then with the projects, even today I look at them and I'm like, do I ever want to finish these? And I would get so creative and it would be so exciting. And then I would get tired of it and I would get excited by I was like, oh, squirrel, let's go create over here.
Novelty.
And before you knew it, I had all these projects and I was like, now I'm overwhelmed because there's no way I'm going to be able to finish all of these. And then I would just quit them all.
Yeah.
So I had
all
a little bit
of black and white thinking.
All or nothing. And so I resonate with both of those things. So if someone is, because I get people, that's actually how I started. We have similar stories. My dad got sick and died, and that's what pushed me out of corporate again and back into entrepreneurship again. And I actually started as a empowerment coach in business for people who are in MLMs. I could never get an MLM to work, but people would always come to me when I was in an MLM and be like, because I have a lot of business experience, and be like, how do you do this? How do you do that? Or they needed courage or motivation, or we needed to work through a fear. And I was like, I was doing all this for free. And I was like, fuck this. So I became an empowerment coach. And it only took a couple of years before my spirituality bled in and I just let go of the business side because that wasn't my jam. I be the change. That's my mission. And so I love that there are people out there like you who are focused for this in the business because there's so many of us. especially this year, next year, we're going to go through some major financial shifts, and there's going to be so many more people who are going to be stepping into self-employment and not knowing how to do this, because it's like overwhelming when you've always had a structure and been told what to do, to now you are the one because you're technically selling yourself.
Yes.
Even if you have a product, I still feel like you're selling yourself. You still have to go through the whole, shifts of worthiness. But do you have things where people can like get to know you? Like, do your little guide that you were talking about that you track, like, can people just like get that from you?
Oh yeah, there's lots of ways to get into my orbit. So first and foremost, following me on TikTok is the best possible place because that's my favorite platform. My first TikTok account got banned at 45,000 followers 3 months after I quit my job and had gone full time with my business back in 2021. It was traumatizing, but I'm working through it every day. And so that same day I said, fuck, all right, here, we got to do it again. Let's do it again. There must have been people attached to that account that didn't have my best interest at heart. So my spirit guide said, let's start over. So TikTok,
and you know what?
Instagram,
this is a good,
YouTube.
Before you go further, this is a really good point, because that is a real fear with any social media today, is building this huge following and it just being taken away from you. But you have a pretty decent following right now, and your content is great. So it just proves that it doesn't matter if they take it away. You just do it again. Just do it again.
That's why you want to make sure, I work with female founders who are ready to really master their neurospicy brain and build the empire that they've been dreaming of, right? So every single tactic and strategy and everything that we do is all based in science. There's a lot of magic involved because we are magical human beings. We came to Earth to learn how to manipulate energy. It's easy peasy lemon squeezy, right? But all the things that get in the way, especially as an AFAB individual and a woman who's a mom and a wife and a this and blah, blah, blah. So really, my whole mission is to help you achieve success on your own terms.
Love that. Love that.
On your own terms. So I help you become an expert in yourself. I help you understand your natural energy cycles, which bleed into your natural productivity cycles. I help you understand how to motivate your neurodivergent brain. And really just, this is the thing you want. Yeah. Let's fucking get you there. Yeah. Let's go. Come on. What's next? Let's do this. Right. I've been a coach my whole life. I coached my kids' soccer teams for many years and all sorts of stuff. I'm just that girl. I'm not afraid to be the loudest person in the room. I'm not afraid to listen to everything that you have to say and then non-judgingly, and there's never a criticism that comes out of my mouth because it just doesn't serve anybody. Yeah. So there's all sorts of ways. You can follow me on social media. You can check out my website. You can join the Neurospicy Academy, which is I'm the co-founder at the Neurospicy Academy with my friend and now life partner, Christina. You can join the Neurospicy Academy. We have a free level that's our dreamer level. Then we have a build level and things that are growing and changing there. You can always DM me on Instagram. That's really the only platform that I understand the DMs. Don't call me an idiot. TikTok DMs are confusing and there's a lot of rude people in the DMs. So I'm not even inclined to like go look at them. And then I have a bunch of things that are available online. I have a free self-care guide, which is not super duper detailed because I want you to start inferring what works for you. And because I'm not going to tell you, wake up at 5, eat 30 grams of protein, do this, do that. I can't tell you what works for you, but I can help you understand what works for you. I can help you figure it out. Yes. So that's free. My energy optimization guide is $7.97. I have a course that's called Routines That Work, which is really going to unfuck your schedule and unfuck your executive dysfunction and turn you into a productive, motivated, get all sorts of things done, no matter what happens to you. Because we all know as service providers, when you're holding out for a 2 p.m. Client call and that client has to change or reschedule all of a sudden, now you have this hour in your day where you're like, what am I supposed to even do here? I can't even dive into a project. I can't do this. You're going to be able to pull from your, essentially your menu of tasks based on what sort of mental headspace you're in, how much energy you have, all that sort of stuff, muggle tasks, magical tasks. Like, we're going to make everything possible. Yeah. Because that's what I want. I just want you to understand that it doesn't have to make sense to anybody else. It doesn't have to work for anybody else. Yeah. If you're not living above somebody in an apartment and you want to vacuum at 2 a.m. and that's when it fits into your schedule, that's then when you'll do it.
And this is why I wanted you on here, because this is like what I am all about. And I I always tell people, you're not fucking broken. You just don't know how you operate. And you have to, the thing I always say, people hear me say all the time, is all you have to do is release judgment. Stop judging yourself. Stop worrying what the fuck anybody else thinks, because they're only projecting onto you anyway. Their judgment is them. They probably wish that they could fucking, sometimes, I swear to you, when you start channeling and doing these things, sometimes you don't sleep. Sometimes that's the most creative time, is in the middle of the night. And so sometimes I will be up at 3 a.m. writing, and sleep until 10 or 11. And if my schedule allows me to do it, I'm going to fucking do it. And I don't really care what anybody thinks. So you have to go with what works for you and do it. Like I always tell my kids, give it your best every day. Give it your best, but know that best looks different every day.
Yeah.
It looks different every day. Right. And
Absolutely.
so if the best thing you can do tomorrow is get the fuck out of bed, congratulations, you got out of bed. Like, so in people, it's just so much judgment. So having someone like you in the business world that can teach people we're not broken, we just don't know how we operate, and we have to break the cycle of what we were trained to do. Like literally, you guys, school was created to teach people to show up at a certain time, do what you're told for a certain time, and then go home. They taught you in school. They did that so that you would go and become a workhorse. And we're not meant to live this way. We're not. No. I mean, some people, maybe that works for them. It sure as fuck don't work for me.
Absolutely.
So anyway, you guys, please go check her out. Follow her. Again, Melanie Mindset is, I think it's Melanie Fixes Mindsets is your hashtag or your handle on TikTok. And she's on Instagram too. Go follow her. I'll have all of her details in the description below of the podcast. And I am just so happy that you came. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. I have to return the favor.
Oh yes,
and
I
have
would
you on
love
my
it.
podcast.
I would love that. Awesome. We'll have to talk about that. All right, you guys, I will see you on the next episode.
Hey, thanks for listening. This episode was brought to you by JohannaBurkhardt.com, where it's time to defy the limits of your mind and step into your multidimensional mastery. Don't forget to subscribe so that you never miss an episode. See you next time.